Thank you, Tony, by the way. I'm also sort of an old guy, not as old as you, but that's okay. But it's also, we go back and sometimes we think about courage, and it's the times that affect us the most is when we were much younger. I don't think most of the courage that we have to report is our own. I think the people that really show courage don't experience it that way. You get the little 8-year-old kid that went to a burning building to save his sister. And he said, what would you do? The guy in the New Zealand killings that has a credit card machine and goes after a guy with an automatic weapon, says, come here, throws it at him, and chases him off. Good God. I think the time that my father showed the greatest courage when I was growing up was like that. I don't think he felt courageous. I think he felt scared shitless. Now, I mean that metaphorically, because he was in the bulge and he had an experience that he was scared shitless, literally. But this was the 60s, and it was a rough time for everybody. I don't know what promises my father made to God in that foxhole in the Bastogne. And that's really not the important part anyway. The important part is what it was like to be alive then, to grow up then, to experience all those things then, and to look back on it now and wonder how you made it this far. This was a little bit over a year after Kennedy's assassination. And what I remember most about that time, just one thing. I remember being really embarrassed that I was crying so much in class until I saw all the desks slick with tears when I walked out. It was February 1965. My father had become a Lutheran campus pastor at Madison, Wisconsin, and our church was really close to downtown where the Capitol building was, the one that looks like the National Capitol. So he took his family down to a civil rights demonstration on the Capitol steps. Now, February in Madison, Wisconsin is like cold. It's like 10 below zero, so we're all freezing our asses off. And I'm like 11 by this time. My younger brothers are there. They're both 9. And we're listening to these speeches and freezing. And then there's the guy giving the speech, and he says, Martin Luther King is going to be marching from Selma to Montgomery, and we need volunteers. Now, we'd heard about and seen on TV dogs being put against human beings, fire hoses, and we'd heard a story about 2 Protestant ministers who've been beaten to death with axe handles. And they're wanting volunteers, and I'm starting to feel really nervous. I'm shaking just because it's 10 below zero. But then the guy that's up there says, we especially need clergy. And my heart just drops out of my stomach because I know he's going to go. I know he's going to go. At home that night, we all sit on the living room floor. I don't know why. It's homier that way, I guess. And he reads from the Bible, and he explains to us why he has to go. We're scared. We don't know what's going on. I think, in truth, he could have lived with himself if he didn't go. So we accept it. I know he's scared. I know when he's getting the dimes to put in his shoes. I know when he's, first time I ever saw a jock with a cup that they told him he had to take. They had that nonviolent training. And then we heard about Bloody Sunday. Imagine being on the other side of a humpback bridge and you can't see the state troopers on the other side. And it's deadly quiet. And all you can hear is their horses' hooves. And you're going to go over the other side, and you're going to get down to avoid violence, and the horses are going to kill 7 of you. My dad's still going. I know he's scared. He's supposed to call. And he calls us once, and he says, look, it's really scary for me to call because we have to go to this diner, and the people there don't like us very much. I'm okay, he says. I'm okay. But I can't call again. That's the most scared I've ever known my dad to be. I didn't go to Alabama until I was in my 50s because it wore me. And it turned out he didn't actually march. The second march was actually delayed a number of times, and he'd been down there for 2 or 3 weeks and just came back. But that was just, I hold that up as a model. It's the end of 6th grade. I was walking back home up Midvale Boulevard, and there was walking with the cool kid. I don't know, he's walking with me. But he is walking up Midvale, and I have to split, he says, you know, John, I got to tell you something. My parents, and I knew his parents were like Goldwater freaks or something. He said, my parents said, your dad had guts, and they were proud of him. I think one truth about both courage and moral models is our fathers have moral models that we never know whether we've ever met and suspect we haven't. But it's not really ours to judge. It's not really yours to judge whether you're courageous or not. That comes from the outside.